How do you start farming without any money? And how much does it really cost to start a small organic farm? These are two of the most important and pressing questions that I get asked a lot by aspiring growers. And although there's not a precise single answer, because it's really context related, depending on, if you own land from family, if you're in, a certain part of the States, in Canada, Europe, it's really context related. But in this video, what I want to share with you is some insights, principles, and some real world numbers and budgets that can help you find your answer on these questions. Firstly, I'll just start off by saying that starting an organic farm, it's not just about moving to the countryside and being your own boss. Although that's a really high privilege and working outside every day, starting an organic farm is an adventure. It's about starting also a business. It's about numbers, it's about strategies, it's about management. It's certainly about growing crops, especially if it's a vegetable operation like the one we'll be talking about today. But there's a lot of details that come into play, and understanding what you're getting into and how to go about it best is really, really, really important. Secondly, contrary to popular belief, you don't need lots of land, $1 million investment, or even heavy machinery to start a farm. Like what we've been doing on our farm here for the last 20 years is proving the exact opposite. On a small piece of land, we're talking about 2 acres, farming without any machinery and not having to go in debt to start the farm is how we've made it. And that's how we've been farming for all these years, and that's how I've been training thousands of growers from all over the world to use this exact blueprint to start their farm. There's a smarter way to get into farming, and what we'll be talking about today is a great way to think about it. So the number one thing that I want to share with you is you need to plant the dream of the farm, and you need to do the math about it. So these are kind of connected, but we'll take them separately. The first thing is that any projects you'll undertake in your life, especially a big one like this, needs to start with a vision. You need to have a clear vision of what you're trying to create. So creating this vision doesn't happen by chance. It's going to be work. You'll need to dedicate yourself to perhaps drawing a farm, perhaps writing a mission statement. But ultimately, you need to answer that question. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And what does it look like? How does that feel? What's the detail of that vision? Are you growing vegetables? Are you growing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 vegetables? Do you have animals? How many people are working on your farm? What kind of income you're generating from your farm? These questions need to be very clear so that you have a roadmap of where you want to go. And you need to put a lot of detail in designing and thinking about that vision. Vision is everything, and a plan without a vision will lead you nowhere. So you need to really commit to the process of thinking about where you want to be, what does it look like, what does it feel like, and try to bring as much abundance as possible in this vision. That's really key. Don't limit yourself when you're envisioning what it could be. Make sure that it's even better than what you can imagine. Dream big, but make sure to have that dream written down on a piece of paper. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, with that dream, you need to have a financial roadmap of how you'll get there. You need a business plan, okay? Fairly common, straightforward business plan. It doesn't need to be an alternative anything. It just needs to be a common sense business plan where you'll track all the expenses that you need to make to acquire that farm, to build that farm, the infrastructure, the tool, the equipment. You'll need to project the cash flow and the financials over 5 years, and you'll need to establish a timeline where you'll see that eventually down the road, the incomes and the expenses will balance out and you'll be financially sound. A business plan is cornerstone to any project. And I know that it sounds kind of cheesy, but it isn't. If you want to take it from me, one of the key reasons why we were able to pull this off is because we had to borrow money. And borrowing money is not a problem in itself if you know why you're borrowing and if you have numbers showing you how it's going to pay off down the road. Okay? So a business plan is an absolute must. Did I say this already? But I can't re-say it enough. You need to have a good business plan. And if you need help, at the Market Gardener Institute, we have a really good resource for you where we share with you different budgets of different farms at different scales and different areas. And that budget is a great leeway into understanding the numbers of small scale farming. It's going to give you example, it's going to connect the vision to a case study. And having a case study is also very important because it exemplifies where you want to go. Mimicking is a great way to get somewhere also. So take advantage of that. But regardless of if you take this proposition to download this cheat sheet, make sure that you have a clear vision and B, a business plan with a budget timeline tied to it. Because the road to farming is going to be filled with obstacles, you need to be clear on your why. Okay, so that's really important. If you're new to understanding your why, you can always look the work that Simon Sinek has done. I think it's pretty powerful thing that he talks about, but that's exactly what we did. When we got into farming, it was very clear why we were getting into farming. First of all, we wanted to raise our children in the countryside. We wanted to work outdoors. We wanted to be our own boss. We wanted to service our community. And we wanted to do anything that was related to ecology. Okay, because we come from an ecology background and we're very disturbed by how the world is going right now and has been going since we left university. So my wife and I, the project of a farm was all embedded in that, and it was very clear to us. We even wrote it down in a mission statement, and I'm encouraging you to do exactly just that. Write down the why of why you want to start a farm. Make sure that it's neatly written down, it's open-ended, it doesn't have any constraints or limit, and again, it's full of positive expressions. Later on in our farming career, we also added another aspect to our why. We also wanted to make it financially. We wanted to send our kids at university like me and my wife had the opportunity to. We wanted to have retirement money, and we wanted to take our winters off to go surfing and vacationing. That was the reason why we got into farming. Your reasons will be yours. They'll be different than mine, but just like as it's important to write your vision down, to draw it, writing your mission and why you're doing what you're doing is important. And the reason why it's important because, again, there'll be obstacles along the way. It's not going to be an easy road to start and generate a profitable small farm. So you'll need to really make sure that you reconnect with that every year. You need to revisit your mission and reconnect with your why to make sure that you're still in it, that it's still something that's vibrating inside of you. You'll need that energy, and your commitment to the hardship of creating this project will be fueled by that. So that's really important, and I'm inviting you to take the time to pause and to write that mission statement. If you've been farming for a few years and you haven't revisited that, do it. It probably needs to be actualized. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you want to get into a small farm? And where do you want to be in 5 years? So we're starting with that bigger picture, and that's really, really important. Take it from me. Another biggie is gaining knowledge about how to do the farming, okay? That's really core. When I started, I was reading books from Elliot Coleman, Bill Mollison, John Jevons. All these masters had books that I was devouring. I was perusing at the library. That was before internet. And later on, I visited so many farms. I talked to so many growers that are not as well known, but had amazing skills and amazing knowledge to share with me. I was very curious, and I was investing in my time into learning how to grow all these different vegetables, and how to have better tips, better strategies, techniques, how to deal with insects, how to deal with fertility problems, how to deal with disease, how to deal with weeding, cultivation, how to sell at market. There's so much to learn. So investing a lot of your focus and your time at the early start of the farm in learning is really key. And the best advice I can give you about how to go about this is to work at least 1 full year on a farm. Make sure that you commit to that ideal of being from day one to the last day on the farm, day in, day out, making sure that you're cut out for the job. That's really key, because you might have this dream in your mind, but you don't, perhaps after 6 months on a farm, you'll think that's not for me. Or perhaps it's the reverse. You'll think that's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I love. That's how I want to be spending my day. And working on the farm, you'll be seeing things, you'll be seeing patterns, you'll be perhaps, seeing for yourself that it's not easy. You'll perhaps acquire knowledge about how you would do this better, or you'll acquire knowledge about how these folks that you're working with are doing things in a great way. So it's an investment in time to work on a farm, but you should really, really do that. It's absolutely mandatory if you want to be successful in your own farming journey. I would add to that there's online resources now that are quite powerful. One of them being the Market Gardener's Masterclass. This is the online course that I teach, and it gives you an overview of not just what it is to get into farming, but how to grow all the crops from seed to harvest, showing you the exact methodologies in video and in writing. And this kind of roadmap is what you need to shorten your learning curve and make sure that you're going into the season and you know what to do exactly when, okay? So that's one example. You can check out this information, and if the masterclass is not for you, there's perhaps other projects out there that can show you. Mentorship, tutoring, reading, visiting farms, that's all part. But I guess my take-home message is that invest your time in learning the how-to farm is really, really, really important. Another biggie, and that I would say is as much as an advice as a common mistake, is that you should start small and start smart, okay? Many people that get into farming oversimplify how much work it is to manage a piece of land. It's a lot of work. If we're sticking to vegetables, what I can tell you is with the farming model that we have here, farming 1-2 acres is a lot of work. It employs having 4 to 6 people. It's heavily managed with greenhouses. It's heavily managed with infrastructure that needs to be, installed, irrigation, greenhouses, washback area, tools, different vegetables. It's not about having big amount of land. It's about farming it with the right skill set and the right intention. There's a lot of energy that goes into making a small piece of land productive and profitable. So don't overbite it. Don't go on 5 to 10 acres. Don't go planting too many fruit trees that you won't be able to manage then. Don't go thinking that you can just go plant and plant and plant on large acreage. Keep it small, keep it tight, have a design, which is really the key. Make sure, and we'll talk about it later, make sure that you have fully understood how each square meter of your farm will be managed. And make sure that you're realistic with the amount of time and energy that you'll be able to put into that field so that you're getting the most out of it. Do less, do better. That's really, really important. And that comes down to the premise, you don't need a lot of acres to have a successfully functional, small ecological farm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 acres, it's great. You can have 20, you can own 30, but start by managing 1 or 2, and then you'll see where you're at. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, on this farm here, we're on 1.5 acres, and this year we're doing 350,000 plus in sales. You know, that obviously that's 20 years, and that's a proof that this kind of model can be lasting. But we started at 100,000 per acres, we went to 150, we went to 200. We've been growing the farm and the number and having a great bottom line without growing the farm. And that's because we've learned the techniques of planting really tightly, doing succession croppings, which is flipping one crop by another, growing more than one crop per bed per year, doing season extension, like learning to grow way before everybody else because we have caterpillar tunnels, because we have floating row covers, because we adapt cultivars that are cold resistant and we warm our beds in the spring, all the way to growing all the way to the snow load that we have in December, again with season extension. So there's all sorts of strategy that are out there that we've done on our farm that don't require large amount of land. It's the reverse. Smaller is better, and you need to manage it intensively. Why have 4 greenhouses when you can lower and lean your tomato plants, grow indeterminate tomato plants, and grow 4 or 5 times the amount of yields in one single greenhouse? This is just one example of what market gardening offers as a solution to have a profitable small farm from the get-go. Okay, another biggie is choose your land wisely, very wisely, I would say. Okay, if you're fortunate enough to choose the farmland where you'll be establishing your farm, there's some key factors that you need to not overlook. Okay, we're definitely not talking about the view on the farm. That we're not looking for a postcard farm. We're looking for different features of the land that makes the farm a great farming place, okay? And the number one thing is soil. You need to be really well aware of the quality of the soil and the topography of the soil. Make sure that if you're farming just a few acreage, these are prime acres. You know, no depressions. You want to make sure that the water flows really well, that there's not too many rocks, that the soil has depth, that it has a really good mix of loam and of sand. If it's way too clayey, it's going to be quite the challenge to farm that piece of land. If it's sandy, it's going to be hard to keep it wet during the summer. So ideally, you're in the best soil possible. Saying this, I want you to understand that soil is not the only thing, and with the market gardening strategies that we have on our farm, you can change your soil over time by adding a lot of compost, by adding a lot of amendments, by growing cover crops. You can raise the organic matter on the farm, but still, soil, starting with the best soil possible is really good advice. Then you'll need to look at the water. Water is non-negotiable. You'll need to make sure that you have enough water on the farm, not just to irrigate your crops, but also to wash and clean your vegetables. You know, a market gardening operation that is pumping a lot of profits from a small piece of land requires a lot of water. Make sure you do the work of checking that. Proximity to market is another one. Make sure that you understand that it's a business that you're getting into. It's not just a farm, it's a farming business. So you'll need to sell your produce, and you'll need to have a customer base that is in demand for local organic produce. So make sure that you're close to that market, and make sure that that market is going to be willing to support your farm. That's really key. I could go on and on and on about other features to think about, but I'm referring you to this video that we made on the subject. It highlights the complete list of everything you need to be thinking about. I guess for today, what I want to say is that don't take that matter lightly. The prime spot, good farmland will pay off for all the years that you'll be working on your farm. Which leads me to my other point, which is designing the farm with purpose, okay? So a farm is not just a bunch of buildings connected or a piece of land that is, farmed. It's a design. You really need to understand everything that you're going to need on your farm. That's why the budget and the business plan is so important. But then you actually need to place everything onto the land and make sure that things connect with one another. On this farm, it's a really good example of a clever design. The washback area, the tool shed, is in the middle of all the fields. Okay, so the fields are surrounding the washback area. So wherever we are on the farm, it's a minute walk back to the washback area. We have almost zero to no downtime due to foot traffic or foot circulation on the farm, which is really important because when people are walking into the field, if there's 1, 2, 3 employees walking down the field to go harvest, and it's a 10-minute walk, that's 40 minutes of downtime. If somebody forgets their field knife and they need to come back, that's 20 minutes of just doing nothing on the farm. Propane, if you're heating your greenhouse, should be located close to the driveway, close to the greenhouse. The water pump needs to be close to it, the system. You need to make sure that you understand how all of this connects together, and you need to standardize as much as possible. Here on the farm, standardizing the length of the beds and the width of the bed, both. Okay, so we're using field blocks. The field blocks are surrounding the farm. That's a really good design, and it didn't happen by chance. We drew it, we looked at the farm from a bird's eye view when we got the farm, and we designed it to be that way. And it's been proving to be so efficient for us in so many ways. Same thing, washback area, you'll be spending a lot of time washing your vegetables. Make sure that you have a clever design, a proper design of the flow of vegetables coming in to be washed, to be cooled, to be processed, and then later on to be delivered. Okay? Design really matters. If you want to learn more about how to design your farm, we have a course at the Market Gardener Institute, and in that course, we'll give you all of the key features that you need to have to cleverly design your farm. Whether you take this class or not, and I'm encouraging you to do it, make sure that you understand that your farm needs a design, and that if you don't design your farm, there's still a design. It's probably just a bad design that's not going to pay off. So think about design when you're thinking about your farm, and make sure that you're able to draw your farm from a bird's eye view, placing all the elements that are going to make the farm with the animals, if you have animals, how they'll be fed, how they'll be watered, with the fruit trees, with the vegetables. Make sure you have a design. Really key point. Another biggie is equipping yourself for success. Okay? So running a farm involves having equipment, obviously, but having the right equipment for the size of your farm is also very important. You have to make sure that you're using the appropriate technology for the scale of your farm. One of the most common mistakes that I've seen in my whole farming career is people trying to market garden, or market farm, which is selling their produce at farmers market, and having heavy machinery to do that work. Like farming on 5 to 10 acres and selling $100,000 worth of produce doesn't make any sense, okay? You have machinery that's there to grow volumes, and you're trying to direct sell your crops. That's not the way to do it. Inversely, what I'm proposing here on this farm, or as a blueprint, is that we're selling everything directly, and we need to have a little bit of everything every week. So we're not moving volumes of specific crops, we're not wholesaling, but we're growing all these different crops. And for all these different crops, a specific tool, a specific instrument, a methodology will help you get there. So it's about finding the right tool for all these different things. And it's not just one tractor that can make the farm go. That's not true. Tractors are not designed for harvesting. Tractors are designed for plowing, disking, hilling, which we don't need to do on this farm because we're adopting a permanent bed strategy. And they're also used for cultivating. Tractors in organic farming are great for cultivating, but then you need to standardize your row width and all your plantings to accommodate the tractor. That's not the route that we took. We decided to go with hand tools, really cleverly designed hand weeders. There's a bunch of them that don't require us to change our crop spacing to adhere to the tractor. So this is just one example of what I'm talking about, but you need to find the appropriate technology, the right set of tools for what you need to do. And it's going to help you, just be more effective, be more efficient, and do the work in less time and in better ways. It's not just about putting money on equipment. It's about finding the right equipment. We did a really great video, 30 must-have tools for small-scale organic farming. You can check out that video. It's going to open your eyes on the array of tools that are now available for farming on small acreage. And also, if you need more advice, we have a budget planner laying out the cost of all these tools that can really help you determine when will you need this tool or when can you afford it. Check it out. It's free. It's for you. The next one is one of the key highlights of what made our farm successful is learning what to plant when. That's really key, friends, because what you're doing is not just, again, pumping volumes of one or two crops and wholesaling it. That's not the business model. The business model is going to market, going to different sales channel every week with an array of different vegetables that are fresh. Okay? So having a program where you really neatly orchestrate what needs to be planted, where, and how you'll be creating crop successions from one thing to the other. One bed was growing lettuce, you harvest the lettuce, the same day it needs to be planted with radishes. When those radishes will be harvested, beans will go in. And that's how we multiply the potential of our farm. Even if it's on small acreage, we're pumping so much volumes because we're doing succession planting. Also, making sure that you have a crop rotation. What was grown here will take perhaps 4 years to come back. Let's say the tomatoes or the liliaceae, the alliums, they're part of a rotation. So all of this is an art. The art of figuring out what to plant, where, and how. Okay? And there's a ton of resources out there. The best one I can give you is the Heirloom software. It's very intuitive. And when you log into Heirloom, you really understand what this is all about. You can try it. There's a free trial. Regardless of if you're using this software or not, this is really the way to do it. You need to have a really clear program of what you're planting when, by what that crop's going to be replaced with, and you need to have that over time. That's what's going to make your farm durable and sustainable over the years. Making sure that you have green manures, cover crops, rotation, and all these successions really neatly planned. This doesn't come overnight, but that's something to think about. And if you're new to your adventure in farming, make sure that you focus on 5 to 15 crops and that you're really clear on how you'll be growing these and how you'll be using your limited space to grow all these crops. It's really important that you don't grow too much of it and that you have enough of everything you need. And that's the art of crop planning and market gardening working together. Another one that people are not thinking about when they're starting their journey in farming is post-harvesting and handling, okay? A big part of the job on the farm is to harvest, wash, clean, pack, store, deliver the produce, okay? That's a big part of the job. So you really need to think about this when you design your farm, when you invest in your farm. You need to have good infrastructure. First of all, you need to know that fresh vegetables doesn't mean that they were harvested the same morning and delivered the same day. That's not what fresh vegetables is. Fresh vegetable means they were harvested 24 hours earlier, cooled down to stop their breeding and perspiration, and then delivered cold and fresh to your markets. That's really, really important. So having a cold room sized the right way is really important. Having all the right equipment to carry vegetables, to move them around, to wheel them, to have a truck for your delivery, that's all part of the farm. And you need to have a clear understanding of how this works and how this will work on your farm. Again, bringing it back to design, you really need to design your washback area, and you really need to invest some money in your washback station, okay? A delivery truck is part of it, but it's only the minimum aspect. Having a great sprinter doesn't solve the washback thing. You need to clean, you need to water, you need to gun, you need to get the dirt out, you need to make your vegetables feel incredibly glowy and fresh, and that starts at the washback area. And you also need to learn how to harvest each of the vegetables at the proper timing in a given week, in a given day. So there's a lot to learn, and that's okay. But just for today, make sure that you keep in mind that washing, harvesting, packing, delivering your vegetable is a big part of the job. So make sure that that part you're thinking about before you even start your farm. Another biggie is thinking about selling what you'll be growing, okay? Too many people get into farming because they love to grow, and that's great, but they forget that they're running a small farm business, and they forget that they need to be selling. Selling is half the battle. It's half the workload. If you're growing amazing, bountiful vegetables and you're not selling them because you don't have the right market, you're nowhere. It's not going to be productive. It's not going to be profitable. You won't be happy in farming. Selling needs to be understood, needs to be tackled. There needs to be strategies. There needs to be marketing. There needs to be time devoted to selling. And it starts by understanding where you'll be moving your produce. Are you doing farmers market? Are you doing a CSA? Are you doing restaurant sales? Are you doing semi-wholesale, bringing some of your crops to the local grocery stores? Are you doing all of the above? Are you doing food co-ops? What are you doing? And how much revenue can you expect from all these different sales channels? The question that I get asked all the time is which one is better? And there's no right answer for that. It depends on the context. It depends on the opportunities that are in front of you. It depends on where you are. But in my experience, doing a little bit of everything is something that makes a big difference, because if one year restaurant sales are not super high, perhaps the CSA sales will be good. Perhaps the farmers market won't be good one week because it's raining. CSA will pick up. You know, you get it. So having all these different sale channels really, really makes a difference. The best advice I can give you is have at least 2 harvest days per week, no more. So we'll be harvesting Tuesday or for Wednesday and Thursday, and we'll be harvesting Friday for Saturday and Sunday. We're not working, which is another important factor. But let's not get into that today. But having a really good array of opportunities to sell your produce, that's number one. And then making sure that all these little tips and tricks about how to sell at the farmers market, how to set up a CSA so that you're effective and that you're moving a lot of volumes without too much manpower, you know, how to sell to restaurants to diminish the number of interaction with all of this. This is all work that needs to be put into these systems, just like it's important to learn how to grow field crops, okay? Invest your time in learning how to market, move, and sell your produce, because I'm telling you, friends, selling is half the workload of owning and running a small farm. And lastly, okay, last piece of advice that I would give for you today is that you need to be growing the most profitable crop that you can, okay? One of the common mistakes that I've seen is people getting into farming because they've seen a few things and they want to do it, and they're like, I want to grow potatoes, I want to grow squash, I want to grow this, I'm going to use my tractor, put out these fields, and then I'm not going to do too much work. I'll have another outside job, and then I'll do the harvest and bring these at farmers market. That's really not the smart way to be productive and profitable on a farm. You need to focus on the crops that you can get the most money for when you're selling directly at all the sales channel that we just talked about. We're talking about root crops that have their tops on. Carrots sold with their greens, you can get twice or about 3 times the amount of money for a bunch carrot than you would have per kilo. It's the same thing for beets, it's the same thing for radishes, it's the same thing for all these different roots. If you're selling fresh lettuce and greens, you'll be out of competition because you're fresh. You're harvesting these twice a week, always delivering fresh. If you're growing tomatoes, peppers, eggplants in greenhouses just before everyone else, you'll be making more money. We just put out a great video, 15 most lucrative crops to grow on the farm. You can check that video. It's going to give you a lot of insights of why certain crops are profitable and more than others. But regardless, what's important to consider is that you need to focus your energy and attention on these crops that will bring the biggest bang for the buck. That's key. So this is it. I'll stop here for today. As you see, I'm very passionate about this. I could go on and on. There's so much to learn. As my mentor, Elliot Coleman, will always say, this is the topless mountain. There's always so much to learn. And I guess that would be my most important take-home message. If you're starting your journey in farming, make sure that you're committed to the ideal of learning, because there's a lot to learn. And make sure also that you're connecting with a community, because having a community of like-minded folks who care about these issues, that understand your reality, that will perhaps have had the same hardships that you're going to get into, that's really important. If you don't want to be alone, last man standing on your farm. You want to be part of a movement, you want to feel part of a movement, and you want to be able to share your dreams and your hardships with other people. That would be another important piece of advice that I could give you. Otherwise, I would always say the same thing. If this is calling you, you should follow that dream. Like, I knew nothing about farming. I got into farming because I had a dream. And then fast forward 20 years, here I am. We raised our 2 kids on the farm. We've had a blast doing this. It wasn't always easy. It's still today not always easy, but it's always worth it. It's worthwhile your commitment. It's worthwhile your energy. And the world needs this. This is the future, friends. The future of society is food, it's people, it's community, it's ecology. It's all there. It's all there, and we need to have more people committing to this. And if that's you, then again, I'm here to help you as a mentor. We have all these resources at the Market Gardener Institute. Make sure to check us out and make sure to subscribe to this channel so that you're regularly fed this kind of information that can help you along your journey. That's it for me. That's it for this week. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing well. See you next time. JM out.